2024 was the hottest year on record, and scientists believe that temperature will continue rising over the next several decades, continuing to make the planet the hottest in human history. The increase in global temperatures has important consequences, including increased rates of extreme weather, rising sea levels, and resource scarcity. Currently, heat remains the largest contributor to deaths caused by extreme weather. Extreme heat creates a multitude of health risks, including heat stroke and dehydration. Prolonged exposure to extreme heat can result in the development of chronic health conditions such as cardiac stress, third-degree burns, diarrheal disease, organ failure, and aggravation of pre-existing health conditions. Cities such as Los Angeles face the unique circumstance of being exposed to higher temperatures. A UCLA study found that the number of 911 calls spiked on the hottest days as residents suffered from heat-related illness. City residents, especially in more densely populated neighborhoods, suffer from the urban heat island effect, a term used to describe how urban-built environments experience higher temperatures in comparison to neighboring rural communities. The development of Los Angeles is based in racial and social inequality. This history of inequity is now making climate vulnerability worse. The city was developed through the racial segregation of communities by both state regulation and private action. Restrictive covenants became an established practice amongst realtors and private homeowners. According to activist and writer Taylor, between 1923 through 1924, real estate boards prohibited their realtors from selling property to Black people in white neighborhoods. The segregation of the city was further supported by white residents, who would flee from neighborhoods once people of color began moving in, a social trend known as white flight. This trend further discouraged realtors and landowners from selling property to African Americans and other people of color. The federal government also played a role in enforcing racial segregation in cities, redlining neighborhoods that were predominantly low-income or people of color, and withholding certain financial and land purchasing services, as well as enforcing further minority land displacement through urban renewal projects. This history of racial segregation continues to have an impact on our city, creating long-lasting gaps in the distribution of environmental harm. According to a study published by the International Journal of Biometeorology, today, formerly redline neighborhoods experience average temperatures that are hotter by approximately 2.6 degrees Celsius and up to 7 degrees Celsius when compared with better rated neighborhoods in the same city. Since people of color were restricted from living in white neighborhoods, they were forced to develop communities in less desirable, more industrial parts of the city. These same communities were more exposed to increased pollution and suffer larger health risks and other forms of environmental injustice due to climate change. The distribution of extreme heat across Los Angeles County follows the pattern of environmental harm disproportionately affecting marginalized communities. Latino and Black communities are 21% and 52% more likely to be at risk of heat-related health problems. During multi-day heat events, risk of heat-related death increases by 46% in Latino communities and 48% in elderly Black communities when compared with an increase of 22 to 26% in communities that are not Latino or Black. The issue of disproportionate distribution of heat intersects with social class as well. According to a study published through PubMed, distribution of heat tended to favor those with higher incomes in 18 out of 25% of selected global cities. Skid Row is an example of how extreme heat, capitalist development, and environmental injustice converge. 5 in 12 of all heat deaths in LA County are among people who are unsheltered, despite them comprising less than 1% of the county's population. Implementing better environmental infrastructure can help mitigate heat-related health risks by reducing the cause of the urban heat island effect. Solutions include advocating for building infrastructure regulation that require albedo surfaces and adding more vegetation to areas that experience greater levels of heat. Something as simple as planting more trees and incorporating more vegetation throughout the city and not just reserving nature for suburban parks and recreation can have an effect on heat levels. A research experiment performed by the Los Angeles Cooling Collaborative found that tree shade intercepts direct shortwave radiation and prevents it from heating surfaces, reducing surface temperature up to 40 degrees Celsius. There is an undeniable relationship between social and environmental equality, and that solutions to either form of inequity lie in also addressing its counterpart. Rising heat levels are a life and death issue, especially for marginalized communities. To do nothing is to be complicit in the death and harm of these communities. The Cooling Collaborative Group also found that LA County temperature reductions of up to 2 degrees are possible. This would lead mortality reductions to decrease by 10 to 30%, depending on the tree cover and albedo scenario. What's even more encouraging is that the group found that climate change-induced warming could be delayed approximately 40 to 70 years under these solutions. That is, warming caused at the global level could be counteracted at the local level by virtue of cooling modifications to the urban environment. This is a sign that small-scale justice can create larger change.